Hey everyone, my name is Sophie from Sophisticated Organization. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to break down some of my top closet decluttering tips. I have some questions that you can ask yourself to make the determination of if this is something you want to declutter or if it's something you want to keep. That will be really great for you to run through as you're in your closet or by your dresser going through all of your clothing, trying to decide what to do. And don't worry, we're going to talk about that maybe pile. But to start off with, the yes pile and the no pile is where it all begins. The first question that you should ask yourself is, do I love it? If it is an article of clothing that you absolutely love, you wear all of the time, it's one of your tried and true staples of your wardrobe, keep it. That is what you want to keep in your closet. Sometimes this is called reverse decluttering or the concept of taking everything out of your closet. Trust me, I know that sounds very daunting, but taking everything out and then putting the things that you love back into your closet first is a great spot to start. If you love it, then you know that you're going to want to keep it. On the opposite end of that, if it's something that you just outright know you want to get rid of, let's start by pulling those things out of our collection and getting rid of that, making sure we don't put them back if we've taken everything out and you're going with that strategy. But if you love it, then you should keep it. And I know when I ask myself that question, do I love this article of clothing? There's not that many things that I absolutely love. There's quite a few that I think, oh, they're fine, or it gets the job done when I need to do this or that. But the love things are few and far between, at least for me. So that's a great starting point. The next thing you want to ask is, does it actually fit? This can be difficult because of different phases of life that we might be going through, different weight fluctuations. For me personally, I've been going through pregnancy and postpartum and pregnancy again and soon to be postpartum again. So sometimes it's a very temporary, no, this does not fit me, or yes, it fits me because I've pulled out maternity clothing or non-maternity clothing. But other times it can be longer term weight gain or weight loss. And you have to take a critical look at those articles of clothing and think to yourself, how much space is this taking up in my closet? How far away am I from whatever weight that this item of clothing might be? Is it something that I'm working towards? What is it doing to my mental and emotional health to be seeing these things in my closet every single day or in my dresser? That is a really important factor and something that you should consider. And it can go both ways. Sometimes you can be holding onto clothing that is too big for you because you're worried that you might gain weight again and go back to that clothing. Or it could be goal clothing that you're working towards. If it's motivating for you to have that goal clothing and it's an actual attainable goal that you can see yourself reaching in the near future, then maybe that's something you want to hold on to. If it's something that, if you really realistically think about it, you're pretty far off of or may never get to. If you're trying to fit back into your high school clothing and that's just not something that you foresee in the future actually happening, then it's probably okay to let those things go. And if you get to that goal weight and you lose all of the weight that you want and you fit into the clothing that you want, you probably want to reward yourself and you deserve to purchase a few new things. I also, every time I go through decluttering, ask myself if the clothing is in good shape. Is it stained? Is it ripped? Does it need to be repaired in any way? And try to address that as quickly as possible. So if it's stained, I'm going to go to the laundry room, make a pile of all of those things that are stained, try and get those stains out, maybe bring it to the dry cleaner, try and get stains out. And if I can't get it out or a professional cannot get it out, then I'm going to get rid of it. If it's a quick fix like sewing on a button, I need to give myself a deadline. Maybe by the end of the week, I need to repair the buttons. If it's something that needs to be brought to a tailor, again, give yourself a deadline. But if you are not going to take care of those repairs or get rid of those stains, or it cannot be repaired or you cannot get rid of the stains, you need to get rid of the clothing. How does it make you feel? Is it flattering on you? So that's kind of related to the does it fit you, and does it make you feel confident and look good when you look at yourself in the mirror? Is it comfortable? Maybe it's flattering on you, but it's a really itchy sweater and you're very uncomfortable when you wear it, or a skirt that you're constantly tugging and pulling down on. Those are types of things that you're just going to have to realize no matter how much you love it or how cute it is, it's just not comfortable for you to wear, or something that doesn't make you feel good when you put it on, then you're going to want to get rid of it. And to do this step and ask yourself this question, you might have to actually try the clothing on. And that's something I recommend with that maybe pile, which we'll talk about in a bit, is actually trying some of the clothing on, because you might not be able to answer these questions without putting the clothing on your body. You may have heard this one before. Would you buy it again if you saw it in the store today? I like this question because I think it's probing for a few different reasons. Number one, it asks, is this in style right now? So it gets at that question, but it also gets at what fits your lifestyle right now. Is it something that you would feel like you needed? And that kind of leads into the next question of, does it fit your current lifestyle? Great example. A lot of us have gone through a change over the past few years, like I did, where I was working in an office 5 days a week. Now I work fully remote. I had a ton of work clothing. I still probably need to go through my closet and get rid of a few more pieces of work-related clothing because I'm not going into an office like I used to. My lifestyle is completely different. My wardrobe needs to change and evolve with that. Another change that I've gone through is I've become a mom recently, so my clothing has probably changed since then. Maybe you graduated college, or maybe you retired, or moved to a different state. Maybe you lived somewhere where it had all 4 seasons and then you just moved to somewhere where it's warm all year round. So there's different things that don't necessarily fit your lifestyle, what you're doing on a daily basis, and kind of on a year-round cycle. Another interesting question that you can ask yourself is, do you have something to wear with it? Can you make an outfit with this piece of clothing? So if we have separates like tops and bottoms, maybe you have a really cute top, but you have no bottom to wear with it, or a great pair of pants and you can't find a top that matches the waistline of it or matches the coloring, whatever it might be. Either you need to find something. I don't love the idea of bringing something new into your closet to make that item of clothing work unless you absolutely love it or something. But if it isn't something you absolutely love and you're answering yes to all these other questions in terms of you're going to keep it, then if you don't have something that goes with it, you're never going to wear it. So you should probably get rid of that item of clothing as well. I don't hear a lot of people talking about this question, and it's probably my favorite. I think it's the one that gets me to declutter the most. And that is, if you pick a particular scenario, like a date night or a wedding that you're going to attend, or just a dinner out on a Saturday night, or going to run errands, what would you wear? If you look at your closet, what would be your favorite outfit to wear? That's one way of looking at it. Or the reverse, if you're looking at a piece of clothing and you think, okay, this is a dress that I would wear on a date night. How many outfits would I pick before I got to wearing this dress? If there's maybe 3 others that you would pick before you picked that one, I would probably still keep it because you're going to want to rotate through things. You don't want to wear the same exact outfit every time you go on a date night, or you don't want to wear the same exact dress maybe every single time you go to a wedding or a cocktail party. But if there's 15 other outfits you would wear before it, or if there's 30 other outfits you would put together before that, I don't know, that's maybe something that I would get rid of because I doubt I would ever get to the point of wearing that dress if it's especially for one particular event or one particular scenario. Then that's a great way for me to be realistic with myself and say, I'm probably never going to get to the point where I wear this item. I think it's kind of an interesting way to play through different scenarios. Something else you hear a lot when people talk about decluttering clothing is, when is the last time you wore it? It's hard to put an exact timeline on this and say, if you haven't worn it in the last year, then you should get rid of it. Or if you haven't worn it in the last 6 months, then you should get rid of it. Because I think that really depends on the type of clothing it is. If it's casual daily wear clothing, yeah, maybe that works. If it's more formal wear, I don't think the same strategy applies. Or for me, when we were just talking about work clothing, I go on work trips maybe 4 or 5 plus times a year. And the amount of times that I have to wear work clothing, it just kind of takes a while in between when I would have that next occasion to wear a work outfit. So that affects the timeline. If you live somewhere with different seasons, you want to make sure if you're giving yourself a timeline that you have time to rotate through those different seasons. So you don't want to put a timeline on something and say, if I don't wear this in the next 3 months and I'm getting rid of it, and it's a sweater and you're in the middle of summer and you would never have the opportunity to wear a sweater. So timelines are difficult, but it's also difficult to track, when is the last time I wore this article of clothing? There's a few different ways that you can go about trying to remember how long it's been since you wore that item of clothing. Great way to do it is to do the reverse hanger trick, and that's just to take your clothing and after you finish wearing it, flip the hanger around, or you can do the opposite. You can flip everything, and then once you've worn it, flip it back the correct direction. You could separate clothing in your closet. So if I pull out this sweater and I've worn it, then I can put it to the front of my collection and know I've worn it that way. You could put little tags on your hangers and mark with little tally lines every single time you wear that article of clothing, so you know I've worn this piece of clothing 15 times and the one next to it I've worn once or 0 times. That's a great way to do it. You could also write it on a list of paper, all of your clothing. If you have a lot of clothing, that might be a little bit difficult. Or there are apps that you can use to track this as well. On a weekly basis, just paying attention to what is the stuff that I'm constantly putting through the laundry and what's getting left behind. So if you have a day where you do the bulk of your laundry, or when your laundry bins get really full, you can look in your closet, look in your dresser, and see what's left behind and get a good sense of what's being worn that way as well. After you've gone through all of those questions and you still have a pile of maybes, there's a couple of tips that I have. We talked about trying the clothing on. I would highly, highly recommend with your maybes that you actually put these items on your body. You're going to quickly find out, does this fit or not? You're going to find out, do I feel confident? Is it flattering? Was there maybe some sort of a rip that I didn't notice in it? So try the clothing on. Maybe force yourself to wear it around a little bit, wear it out of the house. Give yourself a timeline and say, I want to wear this in the next week and actually see how I feel in it stepping out of the house. And if you're trying to give yourself a timeline and you're thinking, no, I probably don't want to do it in the next week, or the next 2 weeks, or you're coming up with excuses for why you can't wear it in the next week or 2 weeks or within the next month, think about that. What is the reason that you're telling yourself, I can't wear it or I don't want to wear it? There could be something deeper in there that you just don't like the piece of clothing. There's something in there that one of the previous questions didn't trigger. But if you're trying to force yourself to wear it to see if you want to keep it and you're mentally pushing back on that, I think there's a reason, and it's probably going to be something that you're going to end up getting rid of. A strategy that I've heard that I'm a little bit torn on is with your maybe pile to put it away in a bin. And you, again, come up with your own time frame. Are you going to put the bin away for 3 months? Are you going to put it away for 6 months? And try and just live with your closet with all of the yeses. You've gotten rid of the no's. Your maybes are put away in a bin. And if for some reason you're putting together an outfit or you're getting ready for a special occasion and you realize, oh yeah, that sweater that I had or that top that I had, I put in the maybe bin and I really want to wear that tonight. I think that would be great for me to wear today. And you go back to that maybe bin, that's an indication that it's something you probably want to keep. And then after that period of time, if you haven't gone back to that maybe bin, especially the longer you set for that timeline, if you haven't touched it and it's been 6 months, I don't think you need that piece of clothing. If you set a timeline for a year and you haven't touched it and it was a maybe to start with, you've probably even forgotten that you had it and you do not need that, and that maybe can quickly turn into a no and you can declutter it. I will say this strategy doesn't work for everybody, because one of my things with decluttering that I always recommend is when you make the decision to declutter something, get it out of your house instantly. A lot of people will say that you should have a declutter bin in your closet or easily accessible that you can just toss things in when you decide to declutter it. If that is in your daily sightline, I think and have seen often that people will go back into that bin with all of the declutter stuff and start pulling things back into their collection from it. Same with if you have a pile of donations and you just don't make the effort to go take the items to go donate and get them out of your home immediately. We forget about those things and time passes, then we find them again and realize, oh yeah, I did like this thing, or maybe I want to keep this, and you have to relitigate the entire process. So I love the idea of when you decide to declutter, you get it out of your home immediately. But with the maybe pile, if this strategy is sounding like you can resist the temptation to bring all of the maybes back into your closet or back into your dresser, it could be something that might work for you. So you got to do some critical thinking about how you work and if that's something that you want to give a try with your maybe pile. In terms of timeline for how long this project should take, you could knock it out in a day if you want and you want to really move through. It depends on your schedule, how detailed you want to be with your decluttering process. Maybe you want to take a week to do this. Really figure out what your schedule permits and don't overwhelm yourself, because decluttering in general can be really overwhelming, but the clothing category specifically, I know for a lot of people, there can be emotions tied to clothing. There can be a lot wrapped up in this. And if you have a big closet and a big clothing collection, it can take a long time and you might not be able to do it in just a day or a weekend. So give yourself that grace and come up with a timeline that's going to work best for your schedule. And make sure to go through the emotions of decluttering clothing, because there can be so many sentimental things that are going on when we're talking about clothing. We talked about weight a little bit earlier, which can be a sensitive topic or a sensitive thing for a lot of people when you're going through your clothing. You could have hand-me-down outfits or things that remind you of certain events that can be triggering for you in either a positive way or a negative way. I just always try and remember with decluttering in general that by holding on to something out of guilt, or when we have all of these emotions tied to it, it's not doing me any good. It's not bringing me any positive energy or doing anything good for my home or for myself to keep that item. And actually I'll benefit a lot from getting rid of it and freeing myself of that, or freeing my home of some extra space. Something else that you can do that can help with the emotions is to find a great cause to donate your clothing to. And with clothing, there are tons and tons of great organizations. I would go through them and list them all for you, but there's truly too many to go through. I would just Google whatever item of clothing that you're trying to get rid of. There's a few that come to mind for wedding dresses. I think there's one that relates to the military and donating your wedding dresses. There's one for professional clothing for women who can't afford professional clothing to help them with job interviews. There's one for used bras. There's some where you can donate dresses for girls to go to prom. I'm telling you, there's so many great causes that you can do. So Google the article of clothing and the fact that you're trying to donate it, and you'll probably find a great cause that will make you feel really good about moving that thing out of your closet and giving it to somebody who could really, really use it. And even if you have clothing that is worn or stained or missing a button, that whole thing that we talked about, there are some organizations that will recycle clothing. So look that up too. Make sure there's something that's local to you and try and find something that makes you feel good when you're getting rid of your clothing, instead of just throwing it in the trash or just dumping it all at your local donation site. Last thing I'll say is that I would strongly encourage that you come up with a strategy to try and prevent more clothing and more clutter from coming into your home right after you do this process, while you're going through this process, and into the future, because you're going to feel so great if you do this the right way, and I want you to be able to maintain that. So at least give yourself a little bit of a pause on buying clothing, and if you are going to buy something new, couple of things, at least follow that one in, one out rule. So when you want to bring something into your closet, then you got to declutter something else so you maintain the balance that you have established, or make sure the clothing is serving a purpose. I get caught up in, when I go shopping, finding a cute dress and just loving the dress. That's great, but I have so many dresses. I do not need any more dresses. There might be a category in your closet that you realized you were really lacking. Like maybe you don't have a black cardigan and you really want a black cardigan. When you're out shopping and you see a black cardigan and that's a gap that you have in your closet, in your collection that you want to fill, that might be something that you would be okay with purchasing, as opposed to something where you have multiple of that item. I know this was a ton. Hopefully some of the text was helpful. If you have any more questions, leave them in the comments below. Or if you have a strategy that really helps you when you declutter, leave them in the comments. I love when people chat back and forth and have their own great ideas. I learn from them. We can all learn from them. But that is all I have for you today. Happy decluttering, and until next time, I will see you all later.